Hello, I'm Ranger Fran. Welcome to our World of Tomorrow video, where we will talk about television, FDR, and the 1939 New York World's Fair. So what do these things all have in common? We invite you to join us and find out. Everyone knows that President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a radio guy. He loved using radio as the means to reach out to Americans and the world. But many don't realize that FDR was the first president to experience the medium of television. He was televised giving his remarks during the opening of the 1939 New York State World's Fair.
My friends, the time has come for me to announce, with solemnity perhaps, but with great happiness, a fact. I hereby dedicate the World's Fair, the New York World's Fair of 1939, and I declare it open to all mankind.
Commercial television was introduced to the public at the fair. David Sarnoff, the head of RCA, gave the president a television as a gift. It was the 35th RCA television made, and it was placed in the room at the Hyde Park home that his mother, Sarah Delano Roosevelt, used as her office, called the Snuggery. Certainly it was a very generous gift. The cost of purchasing one was the equivalent of $7,000 in today's money. This was during the Great Depression, when many people were out of work, and those who did have a job earned an average yearly salary of $1,300. Obviously, the average person seeing a television displayed at the fair was not going to order one. FDR was not impressed with television. He called it the newfangled invention that had no future. The New York State World's Fair, however, was something FDR did love and was thrilled to be the person to officially open this grand event. He knew the public desperately needed diversion during the dark days of the Depression. In 1935, several New York City businessmen had come together and devised a plan for a World's Fair to be held in New York. The decision was to have it in Flushing Meadows, Queens, the site of a former ash dump that comprised 1,216 acres. The overall theme was Building the World of Tomorrow, a message of hope to the country and the world during a time when despair was more prevalent and people worldwide were worrying what tomorrow would bring. In 1939, there was still an unemployment rate of 17%, and by the time the fair opened in April, the winds of war in Europe were gathering strength. Germany's invasion of Poland in September of that year would signal the beginning of World War II. 63 nations participated in the World's Fair. FDR had issued a proclamation in 1936 inviting the major countries after Congress had passed a resolution authorizing him to do so. Germany did not accept. After being invaded by the Nazis in 1939, the Polish and Czech flags were flown at half-mast in front of their exhibit halls. They did not open for the second season. 1939 also happened to be the 150th anniversary of the inauguration of the first President of the United States, George Washington, and it had taken place in New York City, America's first capital. A 700-foot-tall statue of President Washington was prominently displayed on the fairgrounds. The statue faced the Trilon and Perisphere, the structures that were the logos of the World's Fair. They were meant to symbolize a new and modern world. One of the architects, Wallace Harrison, would become one of the leading architects of the United Nations headquarters. Inside the Perisphere was an exhibit called Democracity that envisioned what a metropolis of the future might look like. The video portrayed a city where workers of diverse races and ethnicities would walk along streets that converged on the city center, indicating that the world of tomorrow would be one of equality and social harmony. The song, that was originally created to be the official one for the fair, was played on a continual loop in the exhibit. Entitled Rising Tide, it was composed by William Grant Still, the first African American to conduct a major symphony orchestra. His work was chosen after winning a contest to create a theme song for the fair. However, another song by George Gershwin, entitled Dawn of a New Day, was chosen to be an alternate theme song after, sadly, the issue of race was raised by some people. There were many sculptures set throughout the World's Fair, but one set of 4 obviously caught FDR's eye and imagination. They were called the 4 Freedoms by their sculptor Leo Friedlander. FDR mentioned them in his opening remarks: religion, speech, press, assembly. Later, in his address to Congress in 1941, FDR would talk about the 4 freedoms he thought were essential for Americans. He used the first 2 that had been represented by the statues, but then used 2 of his own: freedom from fear and want. Among the famous visitors to the World's Fair was world-renowned physicist Albert Einstein. Einstein was televised inaugurating an exhibit that honored the diversity of Americans. The Wall of Fame, as it was called, listed the names and professions of African Americans, immigrants, and Native Americans who made notable accomplishments. Professor Einstein stated that it is a fine and high-minded idea, also in the best sense a proud one, to erect at the World's Fair a wall of fame to immigrants and Negroes and Native Americans of distinction. King George VI and Queen Elizabeth visited in June of 1939. After a long day of enjoying the exhibits of their own pavilion and others, the British royals would spend the weekend at FDR's home in Hyde Park. The World's Fair ran for 2 seasons, April through October of 1939 and May through October of 1940. The theme was changed to Peace and Freedom for the 2nd season, perhaps because by then World War II was raging in Europe, and the ideal world of tomorrow of equality and social harmony it portrayed in the Perisphere was not what the organizers practiced. Very few people of color were able to get jobs working the fair. Out of the 4,356 employees, only 391 were black and relegated to the least desirable positions. Even though it attracted 45 million people over the course of those months, it turned out to be a financial failure of major proportions. $167 million were invested, and the revenue generated only $48 million. The admission fee was too high for the average person to afford during the Great Depression. Eleanor Roosevelt visited multiple times and praised the many things she enjoyed there, including the food. When the fair ended, the 2 famous logos, the Trilon and Perisphere, were dismantled, and the metal was used for the war effort. Sadly, all that remains to remind us of this fabulous event that touted the world of tomorrow are small souvenirs that were purchased, cherished, and saved by those who attended. Had the Trilon and Perisphere been preserved for future generations, perhaps they would have been a dramatic reminder of the themes of equality and racial harmony that the world of tomorrow was designed to aspire to, and one that we are still seeking to find today.
Come to the fair. It's the dawn of a new day.